Okay, I've been wanting to do one on feminism for a while, and I feel like where I'm at now, I'm just going to say where I'm at now, and if I get more information, my style as an investigator. If I get more information, then I'll change it. But right now, I feel like the feminist movement has had some great achievements and still has merit in many parts of the world where women are killed, abused, and maimed by religious ideology, um, or where they do not have the ability to seek help or treatment for health issues. I also think it's had a great importance to talk about injustice where mistreatment has not been investigated and activities that have been buried for reputational purposes get exposed. I think that's really important. I think shining light onto those areas are really important, and the feminist movement has created a foundation for us to kind of do that. Um, but I think today it's lacking more direction. It's lacking a lot of direction, and it feels like it's spreading like a virus, consuming academia, media, and poisoning notions of boundaries. And like an all-consuming mother that doesn't know when to leave you alone, or when she finishes and you begin as an individual. I think there's a paradigm there, and then from academia, it's spawning these immature activists with blinkers on that only see this nebulous boogeyman, which is the patriarchy. And I think that's just ridiculous. Like the way I see the feminist pattern working is like they'll gain ground, and instead of just like, yeah, we've gained ground, they spread. It spreads like a virus into multiple things. It's like Me Too started out great, but then you got like Asia Argento and other women that were part of that movement, Asia Argento in particular, where she's guilty of the same stuff she's against. It's like, where's the justice? I think it's like you're turning a blind eye to stuff which you were originally against. And it's just like mind blowing. Um, I think men not respecting the importance of a being and the capacity of this being to bring the life into the world is where we've fucked up. I think allowing ourselves to be dragged into war where conflicts and contracts of life have been twisted, our good nature has been twisted where we kill people. I think there's something about killing another human being that betrays some kind of internal thing inside us, which just corrupts our thinking, how we feel. There's a whole bunch of there's something in it. I don't know what it is. There's something in it. Um, I think where we traded in notions of life purpose for a 9 to 5 is where we fucked up too. The resentment of having a job that is unfulfilling, um, dealing with bosses that are unable to see your greatness, or clients that you bend over backwards for to negotiate a sale, only to find like hours or days or months worth of work just fall by the wayside to the cheapest bidder. I think that stuff would enrage someone. I think the effort that you invest into someone, that's your life. Like you're giving your life away to something that either you believe in or you don't believe in it. If you don't believe in it, it's like, why the hell are you doing it? So I think there's an element of resentment there, which I think we can take out on people around us. And you can argue this or not, but women are more fragile, and I think that men find it easier to do that to women when they're angry, instead of looking within themselves and going, you know what, how am I contributing to this problem? How can I take ownership for what of my life? Which is part of maturity, is what we're supposed to do. And I think there's rites of passage there which have been neglected for both sexes of accepting responsibility. I think the feminist movement refuses to look at its own shadow. There's more matriarchs coming out today talking about that. I think it's important for it to come from women, because whenever a man talks about this, it's like, you have a penis, obviously you have an agenda. It's like, well, fuck, all right, whatever. But I think there's a lot more women out there that are standing in their own power, know that they have the strength and support of a tribe to look at their own shadow, and they're calling this stuff out. And I think it's great, and I'm just backing this up too. Basically, the feminist movement refuses to be satiated by any progress that it has made. Which is what I was mentioning before, but it gains ground and then spreads like a virus, instead of going, yeah, you know what, we gained ground, let's look at something else. Gain ground, let's look at something else. Um, Like it seems to spill up, particularly with Me Too. Like it's just spread into everything, and then notions of justice just go, like character assassination. It's like what are you doing? Um, I think it refuses to look at how it does business and perpetuates this manipulative character assassination methodology. Um, I think it refuses to look at the inherent characteristics of the individual and continues to push for equality of outcome, which I think if it took a step back and looked at nature, it isn't possible. Like equality of outcome is not possible, and it might have seemed possible in some countries, or a lot of countries have tried it, but it is unsustainable and millions tend to die. So the second you pop out of that womb, you've been given a script of how your body is going to react to the environment, what environmental factors are going to affect its health, the class you were born into, which I'll touch on later as well. I think men need to stand up and start to say no, enough. This is enough. And I think a lot of men don't do that in relationships, which means they're never going to do it in life. But before we do that, we need to own our own shadow, and we need to do it from a loving place, a place of understanding where that hurt people, and that women have been hurt by men, and this is multi-generational. So this is not like just like one woman. This will go back generations. So I think we need to understand that there's pain in what a lot of women are saying, and they're all quite connected. As the part of the species that is the most connected, generalizing, women are the most connected. I think that rite of passage of menstruation, women understand that pain straight away. Like, what's your period pain like? They get it. Like, they get pain. They get that kind of suffering that happens like every month. I feel like there's a bond there automatically that happens during puberty. Men do not have that. I think I've mentioned that before in other videos. But we also need to be able to say that pain belongs to you, and then what's your part in the pain? How do you trade like your integrity, your body, your being to be in situations that end up with you being hurt? Were you listening to the rhetoric that women can be like men, and were you trying to compete with men? What are you trying to do? Do you know what your intuition sounds like? Did you override it? Do you love yourself enough to walk away from situations or not get into situations, or by pleasing someone else, you put your life and body in danger? Do you do that? Because I know that the more character analysis stuff that I do, the more I know that there are people that are people pleasers, and they will stay late at work. They will do things to please somebody else, whether it's to trade in to get better resources or whatever it is. There's a sacrifice. It's shit, and that's just the way it is. I didn't make the rules. That's what I see. That's the patterns that I see. What did you sacrifice in order to get to the situation that you are in today? Myself included. So I think people can change, myself included, and the more lower self work that you do, the more change is possible. But if you go on in a state of like self-righteousness and feel like your ignorance and fragility can be flaunted and be protected by the tribe at the same time, you're tripping balls. You're tripping ovaries. I think you're wrong. Like, I really think that you're wrong. You cannot have the best of both worlds. The same way men cannot have both of the best worlds. Can't be misogynistic assholes and then expect that we're going to have women to be there for us. We just can't. We can't flaunt our power. We can't push ideas while physically hurting someone and then expecting us to come out on top. By physically hurting someone, I don't mean saying words that hurt your feelings. Sure, there's physical manifestations of when you're feeling stressed or heartbroken or whatever it is, but that's your stuff. It belongs to you. But me actually physically forcing my atoms onto your atoms is something different. I think that's where the power play comes in. Don't get me wrong, there are two sides to this, and men have a lot of work to do. A lot of deconditioning, a lot of grieving, a lot of ownership, and myself included. So we can't come from this place from revenge or bitterness or resentment. We've really got to own our own shit. But I think that like the feminist movement isn't about owning its own shit at all. I think it's about controlling speech. It's about controlling terminology. I see it thinks that by changing the words that we use, it can subconsciously change how we feel. And that superfluous pseudo NLP style bullshit will not work. It won't work. And we've tried it for decades and it has failed. The other technique I see that is failing miserably is the reductionist view of seeing every human as a sum of their parts. And I think that's the most sexist and racist and bigoted way of connecting to people. It doesn't reach inside and tell someone like I see your journey. It doesn't do that. That's the movement I want. I want a movement that will create a fiercely and present men that can identify their pain from somebody else's pain and understand where they're coming from, but then still stand in their truth. I feel like one of the worst things the feminist movement worst thing that the feminist movement does is not focus on class. Like in all this rhetoric, and I'm angry now, all this rhetoric from the NPCs, I never see class. I'm pissed off because it occupies so much of the world stage, but the radicals aren't even a part of their client base. Whenever a spineless corporation will go to appease the radicals, but the radicals aren't even part of their client base. I think that's just insane. I feel we need to stand firm in what we do, and this is where men need to uncastrate themselves, be grounded as we get buffeted by the storm, but do it in a way that's humble. And I feel like lower self-work does that. Lower self-work is paramount for both sexes to heal. But I really think it's important for men to do it more because we're well behind the 8 ball on doing this work. On reflection, I see the feminist movement as a mother that is away from tending to the child at home. She's off doing something that she thinks is right, but neglecting the responsibility that she took on herself to be a mother. And the metaphor for that is that she is not tending to the home inside herself and neglecting the child inside herself. And I feel each person waving the feminist flag needs to tend to their inner child, because going out and looking for blood or justice or revenge is just going to lead to more of the same. I think if you're getting PTSD symptoms whenever a word is used, you need to get help, because trying to control the language of others, trying to change how other people behave because you're upset is wrong. It's insane, and you need to take ownership for your issues. So your anxiety, your depression, your trauma, you need to take ownership. If you're struggling finding help for that, then I'm empathetic, and I feel like there's the healthcare and therapists and tribes that to get healing are lacking. So if that's the reason why you're struggling, then fine. But if you're just choosing the chicken shit way out and getting medication and then wearing your diagnosis as a badge of oppression and a badge of oppression and special privileges, then get fucked. Like seriously, I think that's just ridiculous. And that's where I'm at today. 4 questions for you. What are the patterns that keep playing out in your life? How do you contribute to them? Where do you want to go? And what are you willing to do to get there? So if you can't take ownership of your life, you're just going to be swinging in the breeze, ebbing and toing and froing with whatever's going on around you, whatever your peers are doing, whatever the media tells you to do. If you don't know how to self-reflect and go, where am I in my life? What am I doing? What makes me happy? What makes me sad? What is my shadow manipulating me? What's my shadow doing? What am I doing? What's going on? Then you're not living. You're not living, mate. You're living in you're still in the womb. You still have no idea what you're doing. So you need to own what's going on in your life. And then you can start helping others. Otherwise, I love you. Thank you for listening. And that was quite the rant. So, peace.